Ministers' question. Sorry, 12 o'clock. We're going to speak now, I think, to the new Deputy Prime Minister and Secretary of State for Health and Social Care. That is Therese Coffey. Therese Coffey, good morning to you. Thank you very much for being with us on what's going to be a very busy day for you and the government. First of all, let's just talk about the fact that Liz Truss has now been appointed as Prime Minister. What kind of vision do you think she'll be able to bring to the country?
Well, the Prime Minister set out a very clear vision yesterday on the doorsteps of Downing Street, focusing on the economy, in terms of growing the economy, in terms of tackling energy, both what we will do to help households and businesses, but the longer term of energy supply and indeed the NHS. And that's why I've been honoured to be appointed as Secretary of State for Health and Social Care. And I'm looking forward to working on what I'm calling my ABCD: ambulances, backlogs, care, doctors and dentists, because ultimately this is about patients getting the treatment and the appointments they need to make sure that they continue to get better.
Now, I'm not going to ask you endlessly about the huge package of help and support for households and businesses that is coming, only to ask you, is it coming, and will it be around about the range that we have been reported, about 130 billion pounds?
Well, clearly we've just been through a significant leadership campaign, but I know Liz, being the serious person that she is and recognising that we need to hit the ground running, we have been working on plans as potential what we could do, recognising that in less than 24 hours we've still certainly working to make sure we finalise the details of plans on each of the points that we've set out, and I know that this week, as the Prime Minister said yesterday, there will be a further announcement, and I'm sure that will assure people indeed when they hear what is going to be offered.
It certainly will reassure people. They've been waiting quite a while to hear something. And you contradict yourself a little bit there, Ms. Coffey. You said 24 hours, then you said this week. So is it Thursday or Friday we're going to finally hear the plan?
Well, the Prime Minister's been in place for less than 24 hours is what I was referring to. And indeed, this government being appointed, not only the Cabinet last night, as I'll be heading to Downing Street a bit later, but indeed the new government this week. Yes, the intention is that there will be proposals set out to Parliament and the country this week on what we are going to do about energy.
And the big question, of course, then will be, something is going to be done. It's going to be a large amount of money spent, and how is that going to be paid for? Because Liz Truss, of course, wants to cut taxes.
Well, what we want to do is to grow the economy, and at the moment we have a high tax burden. We are making sure that we want to focus on that by a mixture of both kind of encouraging investment rather than putting up corporation tax, but also making sure that we honour our manifesto commitment to the people that voted for our party in 2019. That's why we'll be reversing the National Insurance Levy, but indeed we just need to continue to focus on the supply side reform, so making it easier to do business, making it easier to run government, in order to make sure that the main focus is on the outcomes that we deliver for people in this country, and to make sure we do that as effectively and efficiently as possible.
I mean, how challenging is it going to be for you going into that brief of health and social care to have that levy being reversed? That was going to be a lot of money that those services in the NHS and in social care were really waiting for.
Well, the intention is that will be funded from general taxation, and that is the case. So we will continue to invest the same amount into health and social care that we were setting out through the levy. But I think it's important that we make sure we now get into the detail of how we are going to make improvements for patients to access ambulances or their doctors or dentists, indeed many other aspects of primary care that's needed in order to, as I say, keep people healthy.
So general taxation to pay for health and social care, but of course, is it going to be general taxation that's going to pay for this package of measures to help households with their energy bills? Or is that going to be borrowing?
Well, we'll be going through that. I mean, ultimately, we receive money through taxation from people and businesses, and then redistribute that accordingly to the priorities set out in our manifesto and the needs of the country. So more will be said about that, aspects of that during this week.
I mean, you're suggesting there that you could fund this through taxation. That's not the case, though, is it? Because Liz Truss is not going to fund this huge amount of money that's going to be spent through taxation, and it wouldn't get anywhere near the amounts that are needed.
Well, this is how the government receives money from people and businesses, is through general taxation and a variety of ways. But it's important that we continue to focus on honouring our manifesto in 2019. That's what the Prime Minister also said on the doorstep of Downing Street, and that's what we intend to do. I'm conscious that we have a lot to still achieve, but we should recognise that, for example, in the NHS, that there's more people working in the NHS than ever before, but also recognise that there are still vacancies too. So we need to continue to get a grip of what is happening locally, and I'm looking forward to that challenge.
I mean, you forgive me for saying this, Ms Coffey, but everyone knows that the government receives money through general taxation. What they're wondering is when they need help with energy bills, when businesses are going out of business because they can't afford to pay their energy, they need help from the government. And where is that money going to come from? Are you going to borrow it?
Well, I've explained to you that the aspects of energy, what we're going to do about that will be set out during this week, and you people, including you, will just have to wait for the detail of that.
I will be waiting patiently, Ms Coffey. I do appreciate. We are going to find out eventually, I'm sure. Let's just move on to the reshuffle that we saw yesterday. Of course, you got the job of health and social care, but we did see Johnny Mercer sacked from being Veterans Minister, and you will have seen, I think, perhaps, the tweet posted on social media by his wife covering that. Very, very upset, describing the person who sacked him at Liz Truss as an imbecile.
Well, I'm very conscious that Liz has appointed a really diverse cabinet. I'm delighted that James Heappey, Minister for the Armed Forces and now also Minister for Veterans, will be taking on that role and will be attending cabinet this morning. This is, I think, a government of all the talents that we have in this party, and I know that the Prime Minister is very focused on delivery, focused on pace, and that is what we will be aiming to achieve, including for our armed forces and indeed our veterans.
I mean, but it's not diverse, is it, when all the supporters of Rishi Sunak have been sacked and removed from their posts?
I'm very conscious that during the contest, the majority of people in Cabinet supported Liz Truss to become Prime Minister. Liz is now the Prime Minister. She's appointed, I think, a really diverse Cabinet, and we will be focused on delivery, and I'm excited about the opportunity to be part of that.
I mean, you have no concerns then that just by appointing allies and supporters, she might well be alienating people. We've seen the shade being thrown by Johnny Mercer's wife. We've seen some other sort of slightly critical comments by people who've been removed from jobs and haven't got the jobs that they wanted. Are you confident that the party can come back together? This was always the talk throughout the leadership contest, that after the bitterness, the party would have to come back together and govern.
Liz has appointed a cabinet of a mixture of whether it's people of her proactive supporters, people who did not support her as well. She isn't focused on about people who support her or not. She's focused on about a government of all the talents. The rest of the government will continue to be appointed during today, and I think that people will be able to see that we will continue to focus and have a broad church of people in our government, and I'm very conscious that the Conservative Party, one of the greatest parties on earth, will continue to be united and to make sure that we really turn our focus on delivery of our manifesto, delivery of against the challenges that we face today, right now, and indeed making sure that we are also concerned sufficiently to make sure that we are focused on the next general election too.
So just a convenient coincidence that all the people that supported her are the most talented ones for the jobs?
I'm very conscious that many existing members of the Cabinet have been reappointed into roles and privileged to do that and to work alongside our Prime Minister.
With the plans that we have set forward, and, obviously we're going to get all the details in the coming days, as you say, what will have to give? Because there obviously isn't a magic money tree. The country is facing an economic squeeze. So what priorities do you think of the government will have to give?
Well, as the Prime Minister set out during the campaign, her significant focus is about growing the economy. We can't just have a managed decline. That won't help anybody. And that is why, in terms of getting growth going, it really matters both in terms of making sure that we focus on making it easier to do business. And that is why I'm really excited by the appointments that we have in the Chancellor, in business, in trade. But this is a cross-government effort. We will continue to make sure that we do strain every sinew, pull every lever that we can in order to get our economy growing again. As I say, we cannot just look forward to managed decline, and Liz has got, I think, the bold economic plan to make sure that we can get on and deliver that. Nobody said this is going to be easy. We're conscious that around the world we have an inflationary challenge. I'm conscious that we will continue to keep our commitments to honour and to continue to support Ukraine as they are part of this unnecessary, aggressive act of war by Putin on Ukraine. So there's a number of challenges, of course, that this government is facing today. We're not alone in that in terms of global issues, but I'm determined that we will support the Prime Minister, and we will on the plan that she's setting out in order to make sure that we can grow the economy, that we fix the energy challenge, and that we make sure that we tackle the backlogs and also access to primary care.
No, of course. Appreciative of your time this morning, Therese Coffey, but just a couple more questions, if you will. About abortion, there have been concerns raised about your voting record about abortion. Do you personally support it?
I'm conscious. I have voted against abortion laws. What I will say is I'm a complete Democrat, and that is done. So it's not that I'm seeking to undo any aspects of abortion laws.
Yeah, I mean, just to follow up on that then, I mean, women up and down the country, people up and down the country, would just be wanting to know exactly where you stand on the issue, because if you're not entirely supportive of it, there will be some concern, and some concern have been raised by some support groups for people who have abortions.
Well, what I say is on the ABCD, it's about ambulances, backlogs, care, doctors and dentists. I haven't even considered any other of those sorts of issues. I'm very conscious that people will have access to the NHS, and there's nothing more, as it were, to say here or see here.
OK, Therese Coffey, really good to speak to you this morning. Thank you for your time. Busy day ahead for you, so we'll let you go. Thank you.
Thank you.